It is Wednesday, April 2nd, and today's the day, Liberation Day, April 2nd, the day when the Trump administration levies universal reciprocal tariffs against every country who's tariffing the United States. And what do you know? It's working. Canada caving this morning. We're going to show you. Also, big news out of the Wisconsin election last night. Voter ID is now the law of the land. Dems freaking out over this. And more stories as well from around the country, including Trump's meeting with Bill Maher yesterday. If you missed it, we have some footage. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates.
And yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
So today is the day, the start to Trump and his economic team completely rewiring the American economy. No more hedging his bets for Trump on tariffs like we saw during his first term. We are talking a complete overhaul of how trade is done. No more small policy tweaks. This is like taking an anvil to the system, coupled with the ending the addiction to public spending, moving to a world of private spending means we are transitioning to pure, raw capitalism. For years, politicians on both sides of the aisle would hail America and the Western world as the free trade economy, but they were lying or too stupid to understand how it works. For half a century, we've had zero tariffs on other countries, yet every one of our allies have been tariffing us. How is that free trade? It's not. Take Canada's long-standing tariffs on the United States, levying 270% tariffs on all U.S. milk imports, 245% on all cheese imports, up to 300% on all butter imports. Meanwhile, we have had zero tariffs in return on those same products, which means Canada has their dairy farmers letting them sell their products in both our countries while American dairy farmers can't. It's not fair. They also tariff U.S. chicken 238%, U.S. eggs 163%, agricultural goods up to 100%. How is that fair? It's not. There should be no tariffs on any goods. Trump's official announcement on how these reciprocal tariffs will work, expected to come this afternoon. Companies and governments around the world waiting with bated breath, expecting this announcement to send shockwaves around the globe. And what do you know? This morning, before Trump's official announcement even came, Canada caving. After all the screaming and whining by Canada's leadership over the last 2 months, what do you know? They've capitulated, announcing this morning they will agree to remove all tariffs on all U.S. goods. Turns out Trump was right. Watch.
Let's sit down and discuss this because it's just going to hurt American jobs. I can't stress it enough. And, you know, again, he believes he's supporting Americans. He said he was going to create jobs, create wealth, reduce inflation. It's worked the total opposite. Inflation.
But do you think it's fair that you have tariffs on a whole number of products?
That's right. And we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off. We are not the problem, Andrew. Do you know the problem is? China's the problem. And he's taking a blind eye to China as they continue to build their critical mineral mass. We have all the critical minerals that our great neighbors need. We have the energy that our great neighbors need.
I just want to go back for a moment. If, in fact, you're prepared to take your tariffs off, why wouldn't you have that negotiation and that conversation now before any tariffs get put in place?
Well, we've had this conversation for over the last month. We don't want tariffs. We have another $65 billion worth of tariffs to launch today. That's the last thing we want to do because It's just, again, it's going to hurt both countries. It's going to hurt American workers. That's the last thing I want.
No, Andrew meant take the other ones off, not the ones you're launching today. The ones that you already got.
You're saying you take all your tariffs off. I'm saying
we will take them off. That's right.
Then why is that not? I guess my question is, why has all of that not already happened? And does President Trump know that you'd be prepared to do that?
He knows, and Secretary Lutnick knows that we're willing to take these tariffs off like in the next minute if he said he's taking their tariffs off. So let's look at the auto sector.
Yesterday, Israel dropping all of their tariffs on the United States, some of which were as high as 200%, coming out yesterday, dropping them all to zero. That's good. Thank you to Benjamin Netanyahu for doing the right thing. So now we have Israel, we have Canada, already caving, markets beginning to come to the realization everyone's expected to fall in line here. But look, we're still in the danger zone. Trump on so many fronts has outmaneuvered these people, but there's still a chance we fall into a real recession. I give it, 20% chance, 80-20 chance that doesn't happen, 20% chance we see some kind of steep correction. So far, there hasn't really been a big correction. It's down, 5% the S&P? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What we're seeing happen right now happens once every 100 years. Take advantage of it if you can. Scott Bessent, who's the mastermind behind a lot of this, calls it the Trump call. The media keeps talking about a Trump put. What I'm focused on is the Trump call. Betting in 6 months to a year, all of this pays off bigly. And we see the U.S. economy go gangbusters. But in the meantime, look, there's going to be big ups and downs, huge swings in market sentiment. In another story, shares of Tesla spiking this morning after reports that Elon Musk will be stepping down from Doge, returning to run his business. As Politico breaking the story, anonymously sourced, keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, Musk was the person who canceled the government subscriptions from Politico, costing them tens of millions in annual recurring revenue. According to Politico, Trump has told his inner circle that Musk would be stepping back from his advisory role in the coming weeks. Politico getting super nasty in this article, writing Musk's looming retreat comes as some Trump administration insiders and many outside allies have become frustrated with his unpredictability and increasingly view the billionaire as a political liability, writing how this view's only been bolstered after last night's Wisconsin Supreme Court election that saw Musk's endorsed candidate lose by 10 points, the conservative. But at the bottom of their article, they add Musk is likely to retain his advisory role. So what's all the big hubbub about? Will he step down from his day-to-day? Let me know in the comments. Do you think Musk should step down? Or do you think he's doing a great job? Name someone who would be better at doing this job. I can't think of anyone. Yesterday, Elon joining the Five on Fox, going around the table, answering each of their questions, including from Jessica Tarlov, a staunch anti-Trumper. Name me someone else who would do this in his position. Just watch as Elon eviscerates her to her face over claims that she says he and Doge are corrupt. This is great. Watch.
Liberal Tesla lover here. My sister has two in her family, so have not thrown any Molotov cocktails recently. But I wanted to talk to you about what Doge has been doing. So you've been making cuts to a lot of the agencies that have open investigations and regulatory battles with your companies. At the same time, you continue to get billions in government contracts. Tesla gets billions in subsidies. How do you explain that to the American people?
Well, everything that Doge does is an open book. So I think the most transparent action, the most transparent organization in government ever. Every single Doge action is listed on the Doge.gov website. It's also listed on the X handle. So if anyone has a concern about any one of those actions, they can bring that up. They can raise that. And I do want to say, sometimes we make a mistake. Nobody bats 1,000. We will at times make a mistake, and we'll act very quickly to correct it. I am under such an extreme spotlight, so much scrutiny, that it's literally impossible for me to get away with anything nefarious. And obviously, nor do I wish to. So This is a case where we have radical transparency. We're actually willing to admit that we do make mistakes. Often people are not willing to admit they make mistakes, but we are. But we want to emphasize we fix them quickly, and we're trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer, for the American people. And I think history will be the judge that what we've done here and what we're doing is a very good thing for the strength and future of America.
In another story, liberal Susan Crawford winning the Wisconsin Supreme Court election last night, beating conservative Brad Schimel to be the swing vote on Wisconsin's Supreme Court, Wisconsin State Supreme Court. This was the largest funded state Supreme Court election ever, with over $90 million in total dollars spent. Elon spending around $20 million to help Brad Schimel. George Soros spending over $5 million to help Susan Crawford. The results mean that Wisconsin will now be redrawing their congressional districts before the midterms next year. The newly redistricted counties will likely allow the Dems to gain 2 seats in the House of Representatives. Not good for Republicans or for Trump, but what is good, something else that was on the ballot last night, a statewide referendum to permanently make voter ID a requirement in all future Wisconsin elections, passed with huge majority support. Look at this, 63% of Wisconsins voting yes, which means the voter ID amendment is now permanently part of the Wisconsin state constitution. Republicans now planning to capitalize on this hugely popular issue, voter ID, and bring it up for a vote in D.C. Mike Johnson will be bringing the SAVE Act, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, aka the SAVE Act. This bill is huge, folks. It will amend the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, requiring voter ID for all federal elections. It will require voters to show proof of U.S. citizenship, such as passport, birth certificate, or some kind of real ID when registering to vote in all federal elections, something Dems are now freaking out over. Watch House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries lose it yesterday after Mike Johnson explained how he's planning to bring this up for a vote. Roll the tape.
In that referendum in Wisconsin, then you should have brought the SAVE Act, which is a voter suppression bill that we strongly oppose, to the floor this week. You could have done it. You could have done it today. You could do it tomorrow. We dare you to bring the SAVE Act to the floor. We'll have that discussion. That's voter suppression.
Dems are so worried about this bill that yesterday they took down a rule in the House to delay the vote. They're doing whatever they can to delay the vote on the SAVE Act. Taking down a rule means Congress can't vote on any new legislation for the entire week. Here's Mike Johnson reacting to how desperate a move this is. Watch.
Well, it's a very disappointing result on the floor there. A handful of Republicans joined with all the Democrats to take down a rule. That's rarely done. It's very unfortunate in this case. 96% of House Republicans voted against proxy voting because they believe it's unconstitutional and they agree that it would open a Pandora's box. And so that's what we just saw. Let me just make this clear. That rule being brought down means that we can't have any further action on the floor this week. That means we will not be voting on the SAVE Act for election integrity. We will not be voting on the rogue judges who are attacking President Trump's agenda. We will not be taking down these terrible Biden policies with the CRA votes. All that was just wiped off the table. It's very unfortunate. We'll regroup and come back, and we'll have to do this again.
In another story, the single largest Trump hater on TV was invited to the White House yesterday. Bill Maher accepting President Trump's invite, going to the White House, meeting with Trump in the Oval Office, then going up to the residence. Trump giving Bill a tour last night before sitting down to have dinner together. This is like the last person you'd ever imagine being invited to the White House and sitting for a friendly dinner. Yet it happened. The beginning of bridging the divide in America, Kid Rock says. Kid Rock acting as the intermediary between the two, saying the entire evening just blew his mind at how well these two got along. Watch.
I went on Bill's show, I went on his podcast, and I said, man, you know, nothing happens if people don't break bread together and meet face to face. He's been one of the president's hardest critics, and we came to dinner, me, Bill, Dana White, and And it could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this? President Trump, extending this olive branch," and we talked about things we had in common, ending wokeness, securing the border. The president was asking him what he thought about policy, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just meant it blew my mind. It was right. I was very, very proud.
And we got some more insight into what happened at this dinner. Kid Rock saying Bill Maher brought a printed out list of insults that Trump had said about him over the years. During dinner, Bill handed Trump this list, and what did Trump do with it? He took out his pen from his jacket, signed the bottom of it, and handed it back to Bill. Watch.
2015, and he has been relentless, really, ever since.
Yeah, well, Bill, when he showed up at the White House, he had actually brought a list of insults Trump had said about him and gave it to Trump. And what did he do? He signed it, which is very Trumpian. And they laughed and they laughed. Kudos to Maher. He knows this is going to burn whatever bridge that remains with the tolerant left.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.